Today's question is, how do we use the remove tool in Photoshop? And why should we use it? What's wrong with the spot healing tool? This is the spot healing brush tool. If we go over to our toolbar on the left and we just click and hold on this section here, we can see all of the different options here. And they all come with the shortcut J. I have just specifically changed my shortcut because I use the remove tool a lot. So you might find that they are all set under J, or the default shortcut that is set for your system. Now, the spot healing brush tool uses content aware. So what it does is you can just use the little brush here and it will read the information surrounding the image and it will make an educated guess on how to fill in those pixels. And it can do a very nice job. It's quite quick. The downside is that sometimes it can lead to a little bit of smudginess. If we zoom in and just take a look, you can see there that the pixels are smudging slightly. So it's not doing an absolutely perfect job. And in fact, you tend to get the best results if you work very, very small. This reduces the likelihood of Photoshop smudging those pixels. Because if you do a lot of spot healing and you get a lot of these smudgy pixels looking all over your image, then that's not something we want. For this reason, a lot of people like to use the healing brush tool. Now, the difference between the healing brush tool and spot healing brush tool is that the healing brush tool needs to sample an area. So what you can do is just sample an area and then use that healing brush to heal away. This is like a mix between cloning and healing. So it can be a little bit more accurate, can have less of the guesswork that's involved in content aware. But it is quite fiddly because of the sampling involved, and again, the results are not always perfect. Now we have the remove tool, and this uses a new technology. It's using AI, which means that instead of just using the pixels around the blemish, it's also making calculations as to what those pixels might be, and it's drawing on a massive database to try to guess how to fill in those pixels. Now, it takes a little bit more time to use than content aware, the spot healing brush. You can see that there's the pink there, and it's just taking that little bit more time to do this just because it requires more computational brain power, let's put it that way. But I find the results are far superior, especially when you're dealing with repeating patterns like crosshairs. So let's say that we wanted to go in and get rid of some of these crosshairs. Now, if we used the spot healing tool in the past, you might find a lot of smudging going on because the spot healing tool is not able to accurately replace the hairs that are crossing underneath the item that we're removing. Whereas the remove tool does a remarkably good job of seeing the pattern that is underlying the item that's being removed and maintaining that pattern. So the remove tool has become my absolute favorite when it comes to really cleaning up hair and sometimes some blemishes. It does quite a good job in replacing some of that skin texture, but it can also create a weird pattern where there shouldn't be. So you might want to keep an eye out for that. My favorite trick, though, is just to remove things like this bra strap. And here I'm going to give you a tip. You don't have to paint over the whole thing. You can just lasso, and you don't even have to be extremely precise. And look what happens. Photoshop and the remove tool has done an incredible job of continuing the line of the outfit, continuing the line of the shoulder. Here we've got a little bit of a dip in the shoulder, so I'm just going to select that, and that's done quite a nice job in straightening that out. But you see what I did? I just made a circle, and as long as you join up the circle completely, it's going to fill in everything that's behind that, and it does a really good job. You can remove some wrinkles in these clothes in the same way. And just watch out for some of this pattern that the remove tool is generating, what it has done is that it's read that there's a little bit of this pattern going on here, and it's added it there. So you do need to take care. Can't be completely blasé about it, but overall, my favorite new tool to use in Photoshop. And here is another little challenge we've got. I'm using a blank layer here. I like to keep these things on a separate layer until I'm absolutely sure that they're working. And I've got the remove tool selected, and I've got sample all layers and remove after each stroke. Now, let's talk about remove after each stroke in a second. Let's just see if we can get rid of this brass strap quickly and easily just by loosely selecting. And voila, not too bad. Let's see if there's any weird texture. Little bit, but nothing too terrible. We need to even this out a little bit, so I'm just going to cover that and then just hope. Sometimes you need to do it a couple of times to see if that's working. And I also just want to get rid of this little dip in the skin there, so I've circled that again. So you might need to smooth out that texture that's been created, but otherwise not a bad job at all. And it's actually extending, there's some noise there on the skin, and what the remove tool has done is that it's replicating that in order to look as natural as possible. So let's do the same here. And that's left a little bit of shadow, so let's just circle that again, see if we can get rid of it. And there we go. We have a little bit of artifacting going on that has been introduced. You can see here as well. Here. So let's just smooth that out with the mixer brush. I'm just going to put a very, 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 very light bit of mixer brush on top of that. So I'm just very faintly painting away to just get rid of that texture. And you can see that my settings are load 1%, so it's just a very soft manual smoothing, manual painting. And there we have it. That's done a pretty good job. Let's look at the before and after. Very happy with that. Now, let's just do that again, but let's just do it in a different way. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to add a new layer. And this time I'm going to go to the remove tool, and I'm going to uncheck remove after each stroke. And let's see what that does. That means that we can do our selecting in various different areas. Make sure we've got everything selected that we need to. That has not looped in correctly, so I'm going to fill that in. And now we can click this button, or you can hit enter, and everything is done at once. Now, I find personally that it doesn't work as well if I do it this way, which is why I started off with remove after each stroke. But just so you know, that option is there if you need it. So I can imagine it could work quite well using lots of little small areas. So let's say there were lots of things to be cleaned up. You could remove after each stroke. You could do all of this in one go and then click that. And those little things would be all done in one fell swoop. And you don't have to wait each time for the computer to do its job. Bigger areas, I recommend doing it one at a time. I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned for more tips.